Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a new variety talk. It's normal, but it's not normal. It's COVID year. So I'm doing the talk from my house in Fobbing, and David Gillam is doing the slides for me, the pictures for me from his home in Gallywood. So we hope it works. And it's going to be the new varieties this year. I'm going to have to go fairly quickly because we're on limited time today. And we're going to whip through the new varieties, about a minute for each, I reckon. And what I've done is I've printed the names on each picture this time. So if there's one you particularly like, you've got a minute really to write the name down and make a note of it. So this is the opening picture here is my friend Tom Bebbington, who passed away this year, and me at the banquet in Harrogate in 1981, which was the centenary of the National Dahlia Society. I was lucky enough to win 2 trophies that day, and so did Tom. So we had a good day. Okay. Right, on to the new varieties. This is the new giant decorative, Louis White, raised by Christopher White in Ireland. It's a big beefy giant, 14-inch, 12-inch, 14-inch blooms. Needs growing about 4 up on a 3.5-foot plant. That's Louis White. This is Wynn's Aspen Glow from Corey Wynn in America. It's an in-betweenie for me. It's between a deck and a semi-cactus. 11-inch blooms in my garden, and it's useful. It's called Wynn's Aspen Glow. This is Wynn's Neon Dream, similar form to the other one, from Corey Wynn again in America. It's a yellow, giant semi-cactus, giant deck, whatever you like, really. It's another in-betweenie. That's Wynn's Neon Dream. This is Milli, isn't the best bloom in the world of Milli. It was raised by Gabby Hayes in the Midlands. It's a white overlaid with lavender, a large decorative, about a 9.5, 10-inch bloom, good form, grows on a 3.5-inch, 3.5-foot plant, and it's called Milli. This was one of the best dahlias that I grew this year. It's raised by Phil Godsmark down in Sussex. It's a medium decorative. It's a throwback of the old ones we've had of the past, like Delico National and classy smaller varieties like that. It's about an 8-inch bloom. I grew it 5 up, like I was instructed. And we were a bit worried about it because Phil normally sends me dahlias that are 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years old. This one was a seedling in 2019. So when he gave it to me, he didn't know what we was going to get in 2020. And he told me that. He said, I'll only give you 1 plant. It could go single, could be rubbish, but it was brilliant this year as a first year seedling. And when it came out, it was brilliant. It's something really special, I think. It's called Rycroft Gold, and it is raised by Phil Godsmark. That's Rycroft Gold, that one. And Tracy Diane is the new sport of the Diane family, a sport from Winnon Diane, raised by Robin Moiser in Kent. It's white with a lavender flush. He done very well with it at all the 3 shows that him and I showed at last year, and used it in winning exhibits at all 3. I think if you grow a good Diane, then this is for you. It's called Tracy Diane. Forest Lamplight is raised by Brian Madders in the New Forest. It's a yellow, small decorative on the lines of a Diane. And I would say that not everyone can grow a good Diane. They get it spotting, they get it marking, they can't grow it. Well, this might be the one because it's a yellow, small decorative with good form, grows about 3.5, 4 foot tall. It's called Forest Lamplight. From Australia comes Winky Centenary, raised by John Menzel in a little village called Winky in South Australia. It's a small decorative. It's like a burgundy colour. It's got good form, grows 3.5 foot tall, and it's called Winky Centenary. Still on the small decks, Rycroft Gold is raised by Phil Godsmark in Sussex. It's an orange golden small decorative, good form, 4.5 foot plants, needs growing about 6 or 7 up to get top size. but it's a really good variety. It's called Rycroft Gold. Another one from Australia, Winky Pat, raised by John Menzel again. It's a lavender, small decorative, grows on about a 3.5 foot plant. I grew it about 7 up and it was pretty good. It's called Winky Pat. This is an in-betweeny size-wise. Form-wise, it's a decorative. It's called Rycroft Porcelain. If you want it as a miniature deck, it's about a 16 blooms per plant job. And if you want it as a small deck, then it's 8 up. It grows tall, grows 5.5 foot tall, robust grower, strong stems, and prolific bloomer. It's called Rycroft Porcelain. Skelmersdale's Jane was raised by Steve Burns in Skelmersdale, and his wife's name is Jane, and that's how it was named. It's a 9 up for me, grows 4.5 foot tall, and it's really good, really consistent, never had a bad bloom on it. All the dahlias that we're seeing tonight, of course, were grown in my garden because we didn't have any trials. We didn't have any national shows for people that show seedlings in. So I was lucky enough to have been sent quite a lot of varieties considering it was a poor year. I had friends that imported dahlias from abroad. I had others were raisers that sent me, and I ended up with about 90 plants spread over 45 varieties, and I grew them in 3 beds. And this was one of the stars, Skelmersdale Jane. Twilight Boy is second year I've grown it. I was given 3 plants by David Hall last year, and or in 2019, 2020 last year, I grew 17 plants and showed it at all 3 shows I showed it and won with it with all 3. It's a star. 10 up, 9 or 10 up, bright dark lavender, prolific bloomer, grows 3.5 foot high. It's a really good dahlia. That's one for the future. That's called Twilight Boy. Small ball, we haven't got many small balls this time, but Blight and Will Scarlet came from Les Stothard, who comes from Lincolnshire. It's a lovely colour. This picture doesn't probably do it justice. It's like a bright tangerine colour. They're about a 5-inch bloom. It's a small ball, goes right back on the stem and grows 5.5 foot tall, tall grower. That's called Blight and Will Scarlet. Rycroft Jill is the strongest and most prolific dahlia I've grown in years. Tall growing, but just through blooms, it must have had 300 or 400 blooms off of it throughout the season. Just kept producing and producing and producing. And it can do the job as a small ball or a miniature ball. 16 up as a miniature ball and about 8 up as a small ball. It's called Rycroft Jill and it's raised by Phil Godsmark. From the same raiser comes Rycroft Wizard. It's a yellow miniature ball with good form, goes right back onto the stem, which is important, of course, with ball dahlias, and grows about 5 foot in height. And I grew it 9 up. Really good variety called Rycroft Wizard. Happit Red Point came from Peter Hasselhofer. Try and say that after a few gins. Peter Hasselhofer from Austria. It's a large pom, and I grew it about 16 up, something like that. Whatever comes on these poms, I tend to let them bloom, and it produced a 85mm bloom. Just went through the ring okay, went right back on the stem, and as you can see, it's a bright red. Happit Red Point. Happit Piccolo from the same raiser in Austria, and it's a mixture of cream and red overlaid with red. It's not a bicolour, it's a blend. More of a garden flower than the one you saw just now. I think Happit Red Point is an exhibition variety. I think this one is more of a garden variety and raised by Hasselhofer in Austria, and it's called Happit Piccolo. This is one of my own. I was lucky enough to have this sport for me off of Mayer's Ronda. I had a bed of Mayer's Ronda in 2019, and I had 2 stems of 1 plant that had these pink blooms on it. So with the help of a friend of mine, we managed to secure it and keep it going through the winter. And I grew a bed of it this year and showed it, or in 2020, and showed it, and it did well. It's a 3.5 foot grower. I didn't have any of the blooms at all that reverted. There's a danger with some of these sports that they might revert back to the parent. I didn't have a problem with this. Everyone was true to its billing as being pink Mayer's Rhonda. We're on to the cactus now. This is didn't have any giant semi-cactus this year. I did have one, but an American one, which didn't quite was good enough, but maybe it will be next year. But this is Clearview Jonas, and I've grown this for a few years. In America, it's shown as a medium and a large. For me, it's a good large, a really good large. And about 10-inch blooms, 9.5, 10-inch blooms. I grow it 5 up, don't cover it, grow it outside. And if you're growing for a Silver Hill Shield, where you need 4 varieties of large semi-cactus, this would be a must for me. I just can't find a 4th, but I'm looking. And it's called Clearview Jonas from the Parcels in America. Louis Berger, we never did find out the raiser of this. It comes from South Africa, sent to me by Dennis Seatsman in America. And it's a yellow, large semi-cactus, grows about 4 foot in height. And as I say, we don't know the raiser. Dennis is a South African by birth, and he lives in Australia, and he goes back to his native land every few years. And he went over and he saw this dahlia in Australia, in South Africa, and he brought it back with him. And it's called Louis Berger. Lighter Cord is raised by Ed Red. It's a sport of Hamaria Cord. It's a little smaller than Hamaria Cord. This isn't the best picture in the world, but it's the only one that I had out on the day I took my pictures. And it's about a 8.5, 8-inch bloom, a natural medium, whereas the parent, Hamaria Cord, of course, is a large. But it produces good blooms with good depth, and I've seen a few good vases of this, and it's called Lighter Cord from America. Clearview Claret is another one from America, raised by Richard Parshell, and it's got really good form for a red. It's the best red I think we've got around at the moment. Really good form, goes about 4 foot in height. I grew it 7 up. I've grown it for 2 years now, and it's a really nice looking variety, and that's called Clearview Claret. Not all the blooms of Clearview Cameron swirled like this, but the one that I took on the day is a bit swirly, but gorgeous colour. It's a bicolour. It's white based, overlaid with light violet, and it's good for exhibition, good for the garden, and is another one raised by Richard Parshell. It's called Clearview Cameron. Glenmark Charmaine is raised in Australia, and it's a straight cactus raised by Alf Hardiman, and it came as a tuber to me about a year before I started propagating it, so it was a bit of a problem, and it was a very weak plant when it planted, or when it grew, about 2.5, 3 foot, but really lightweight, but the blooms were lovely. So I've just taken a few cuttings today, and they look strong. They look stronger. So I think I might get a bit of bulk in the plant this year, and that's called Glenmark Charmaine. Habit Spirit is from Peter Hasselhofer in Austria. It's a lovely blend of cream overlaid with claret, with a bright red overlay. It's a fimbriated dahlia, or in America they call them lacinated dahlias. And of course, all the petals are split, as you can see there, and that is part of it. And you down point a bloom that hasn't got the even fimming across the whole bloom. It should be even throughout the bloom. And that one is called Habit Spirit. This is Linzer Kleinwort. In English, it's Cloud of Sound. It was given to me by Robert Reed, who got it over from Germany, or Austria he got it from, but it's a German variety. And it done really well. It's a lovely garden dahlia, probably a bit deep, because as you probably know, water lilies should be on a flat plane. They shouldn't be 2/3 deep like the average show dahlia. So this one would be a bit deep for show bench, but had stems like iron, beautiful bright colour, fluorescent pink. My wife's got her eye on it to grow it in the garden next year. That's Linzer Clangwort, or Cloud of Sound in English. And to finish off, this is me and my friend Tom. One of the last times I did go and see him in the nursing home a couple of times in Derby. But this was in 2017, we think, when he won the Mawson Trophy for 12 giant decks. David Gillam took the blooms up and staged them for him on the day at Harrogate. Tom was getting a bit frail by that time with his Parkinson's disease. And unfortunately, as you know, he passed away earlier this year, a couple of months ago. And that's the end of my little talk. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much.